Hari Om. Let us chant the first 10 verses of chapter 7. Shri Bhagavanuvāca Maya Sakthamana Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashraya Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasyasi Tashrinu Jnanam teham savijnanam idam pakshyamya sheshataha yajñātvā neha bhūyoņyad jñātavyamavasishyate manushyanam sahasreshu kaśchidhyatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaśchin mam veti tatpataha bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kham mano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yam me bhinna prakrutirashtadha apareyamitasvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat yetadhyoni nibhutani sarvani tyupadharaya aham krishnasya jagataha prabhava praళyastatha matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mayi sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva rasohamapsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayoho pranavasarvavedeshu shabdhakke paurusham nrishu punyo gandha prithivyam cha tejaschasmi vibhavasau jivanam sarvabhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu bijam mam sarvabhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatamasmi tejas tejasvinamaham.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti. We are starting with chapter 7 called Jnana Vijnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge and wisdom. Jnanam is knowledge, Vijnanam is wisdom. So, the 7th chapter is called the yoga of knowledge and wisdom. A very short chapter, but sets the pattern for the rest of the 6 chapters. Even though it's one of the small chapters that has only 30 verses, it sets the ground for the entire next 6 chapters. And this 30 verses is divided into 6 topics. Verses 1 to 6 is called the two aspects of God, Brahman. 7 to 11, how Brahman manifests itself. 12 to 15, the Vishyas do not know or seek Brahman. Verses 16 to 19, the four virtuous types who worship God. The fifth one, the deluded seek and gain finite fruit. The last one, the wise seek and gain Brahman. The 30 verses is divided into these 6 topics. First, he talks about the two aspects of God. In the first 6 verses, he is going to talk about the two aspects of God. Now, two aspects of God, all along we have been seeing God as Nirguno, Nishkriya, etc. And now he is going to talk about two aspects. Now, when he is talking about two aspects, it is called the Saguna and the Nirguna. The two aspects of God means Saguna and Nirguna, with qualities, without transcending qualities. Can't say without qualities, transcending qualities. The one aspect of God that is manifest, the other which is not manifest. So what is the manifest aspect of God? We can say in the form of, in the physical body of Rama, that is the manifest aspect. In the physical body of Krishna, that is the manifest aspect. With attributes, with gunas. But that is lower. Why it is called lower is because it is confined to a personality. And the personality, the body has a beginning and an end. But then God in that embodiment doesn't have a beginning and an end. But still, why do we call that as lower aspect of God? Because they are the enlightened ones who talk about Brahman. So that is the lower aspect. The two aspects. Two means the lower and the higher. Saguna and Nirguna. And then comes how Brahman manifests itself. How Brahman manifests itself in the world as the subject and the object. How Brahman manifests itself as the various objects and beings. The third topic, the Vishyas do not know or seek Brahman. Vishyas means those who are materialistic by nature. Vishyas means those who are materialistic by nature. They don't seek, they do not know God or seek God. The virtuous, compared to the Vishyas, the virtuous, they worship God. Of the virtuous, some are deluded, some are wise. Amongst the virtuous, some are deluded, some are wise. So what happens to the deluded virtuous people? The deluded virtuous people gain finite fruit. The undeluded wise seek and gain Brahman. That's the sequence. This is chapter 7. A brief summary of the chapter 7. And also we have seen in the introductory portion last week, there is going to be a shift in the way discussion is going to move on from this chapter onwards. It would be more about God. It would be more about bhakti. It would be more about that aspect of the spiritual practice. Up to chapter 6, the importance of effort is established. Uddharedatmanatmanam atmanam avadharayet, etc. The importance of effort is established. And this importance of effort, if not understood rightly, it will make a human being more egoistic. As it is, the human being is egoistic. If the effort is not rightly understood, one becomes more egoistic. That's where you find people not having this complete knowledge. Before getting into the spiritual path, they may look humble. After getting into the path, they are extremely arrogant. The arrogance is more, the ignorant. Why? Because they take this out of proportion. What is it out of proportion? The self-effort. Having realized this, Krishna now changes the gear and says, wait. It's not only your effort. I also play a part. Now the confusion starts. It is my effort or his part. The confusion will start now. And if actually speaking, for us, there is no confusion at all. Yeah. For us, there is absolutely no confusion, because everybody is so clear. Where is the confusion? For Arjuna, it is confusing. Because on the one hand, you are saying it is the effort. On the other hand, you are saying this. No, sir, the problem is Arjuna didn't come for study classes. If he had come for the study classes, he would have known what you do in the study classes. You leave in the study class and you go out, you do exactly the opposite. We know how to do that. We have been doing that for decades together. Arjuna is taking all this very seriously. Therefore, he is getting the doubt. When self-effort is taken out of proportion, ego becomes pronounced. Meaning, it's all your effort. It's all your effort. It's all your effort. Instead of being humble in effort, the arrogance comes and joins the effort. Are you able to follow? Because the person, it's all my work. For which he comes and says, no. Don't get so arrogant. For there is another factor. What is the other factor? Remember this formula. Success equals effort plus grace. You may agree, you may not agree. You may accept, you may not accept. But success equals effort plus grace. Grace means the anugraha, the divine support. Like Shakespeare says, there is a divinity that shapes our ends. Therefore, success in any endeavor, may be materialistic or spiritual, success has two components. The effort. The effort means the prayatna, how much of effort you put in. The second is the grace. Jnanam and Vijnanam. One who is wise understands this difference. That is why he uses two words, Jnanam and Vijnanam. Vijnana Yoga, straight away you could have said Vijnana Yoga. Why Jnanam and Vijnanam? To bring about this distinction that there could be knowledge and misunderstood knowledge. Knowledge, if it doesn't turn into wisdom, it is misunderstood. You cannot have knowledge but not wisdom. If you say, I have knowledge but don't have wisdom, the knowledge that you have is a misunderstood knowledge. But sir, wisdom I don't have, but I rightly understand everything. That possibility doesn't exist at all. Why? Because If you have rightly understood, it would have become wisdom. If it hasn't become wisdom, it means you have not rightly understood. Therefore, he brings in the very subtle distinction at the title itself. Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Able to follow? You have knowledge, you have information, and that information got to turn into wisdom. How does information turn into wisdom? Effort. And that effort has to be supported by grace. That effort has to be supported by grace. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu. I'm not restarting the class. I'm not restarting the class. Why do we say that? Why can't we straight away start chapter 7 onwards? Why do we do that? Why do we pray? Why do we have an invoke? It's not a ritual, correct? Why do we chant the 10 verses before the class? It's not a mechanical ritual that we do so that, I don't know why we chant, we do this, because in order to earn the grace. That is why there is a prayer. That's why there is a prayer. That prayer supplementing the effort. It's two pedals to effort. What are the two pedals to effort? One is your prayatna, the self-effort, and the other is the grace. So therefore, the formula I gave is success equals grace plus effort. Self-effort. Effort means self-effort. Are you okay till now? But sir, all along we have seen success means 3C only. No. Why are you giving a new formula now unnecessarily? That formula itself is not clear. Yeah. And then you give your own formula. Immediately books you see there is no success equals 3C. There is no success equals effort plus grace. Formula is very confusing. Now you are adding instead of solving the existing one. Why are you adding more? Success is there is always a unknowable factor in life. Carefully follow. There is a factor that is always unknowable. And that unknowable is that which guides the whole life itself. And that unknowable is that which transcends human comprehension. That's why it's called unknowable. Unknowable means that which transcends human comprehension. Effort is that which a human being can comprehend. Effort means it is comprehensible. And then there is something called the grace, which is incomprehensible. That is why that area of ignorance you surrender. That's why it's called in that area of ignorance. Ignorance means that is incomprehensible. In that incomprehensible area, you surrender. That surrender is a divine state where the divine grace will be showered on you. So success equals effort plus grace. Where did we read this? He hinted this in chapter 2 itself. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. Your right is an action only. As the doer, you don't determine the result. The doer of an action doesn't determine the result of the action. It means what? There is an added factor. That's all, isn't it? There is an added factor. Your right is an action only. Never to the, you have no right over the results. When we say you have no right over the results, when he said karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, I decide the result. As the doer, you don't decide. Then who decides? I decide. How bad it is, no? You do the action, somebody decides somebody is deciding what should be the outcome. How cruel life is, isn't it? You agree, you may not agree, but he says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. I decide means what? Not Mr. Krishna. I decide means there is an unknowable factor that decides what direction it has to go. There is an unknowable factor that decides. And on what basis that unknowable factor decides? On what basis unknowable factor decides? You don't know. You say, if you say the unknowable factor decides based on my effort, where is the unknowable there? You know it already, no? Are you able to follow? Chapter 6 is very easy, sir. Chapter 7, starting you are confusing it. So all along we thought we know Bhagavad Gita very clearly, and now from the beginning itself is very. Are you able to follow? If he says, if you say that, on what basis he decides the result? The proper answer is, I don't know, you should say. If we say, I know, then what it means? It means it is you know that if you put in the effort, result comes. Then where is karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana? Then that verse itself has no. Then that verse itself has no meaning. So one person says, don't do anything, simply pray for his grace. Another person says, there is no such thing called grace and all, simply do effort. Krishna says, don't take extreme positions like that. For life doesn't take extreme positions like that. It is a combination. What is the combination? Effort plus grace. Grace is that which is there. Grace is that which is there. You don't block it. The effort is to remove the block. The effort that you do is to remove the covering. So remove the covering, the grace that is already there blesses you. So Karma Yoga removes the covering, the block. So more you remove the covering, more you are blessed, as it were. When we say as it were, means it's there already. The grace is there already. And that grace is explained from chapter 7 to chapter 12. Are you okay? That grace is explained from chapter 7 to chapter 12. That grace is called God. That grace is called Brahman. You can use any word for that. You can use the word God. You can use the word grace. You can use the word Brahman. Doesn't matter. All means only one thing. What? There is something that is blessing you all the time. By your effort, did you create oxygen? With all my effort, I created oxygen, sir. Oxygen cylinder, you can create, isn't it? What is that machine? 2 months back, 3 months back, everybody was desperate for that machine, no? There was some machine, no? What is that machine called? I don't know. I also thought, let me buy and keep 2 machines at home in case. I didn't buy, I'm just giving it as an. Now, oxygen, is oxygen created out of your effort? Oxygen concentrator. Correct, Raghu. Oxygen concentrator. Anytime anybody wants oxygen concentrator, contact Raghuvar. Seriously, he did that. He really helped so much of people during that time. Huh? He really did that work. I was so tempted to ask him one for me also, but then nothing happened. Therefore, grace supported. Otherwise, I would have asked him also, give me one oxygen concentrator. Is oxygen your creation? Out of myself, out of my self effort, I created oxygen. The Panchabhutas. Did you create the Panchabhutas? In fact, the Panchabhutas have created you, isn't it? The 5 elements have created you. Did you create the 5 elements? 3 more examples I gave. We will stop doing Karma Yoga because nothing is our creation. Don't take extremes. What he's saying is don't take extremes. So what is the role of effort? All along we have seen the role of effort is in the removal of the covering. The removal of the covering. That is the effort. Definitely, effort is needed to remove the covering. When you are putting that effort to remove the covering, when you are making the effort to remove the covering, so many times disillusionment comes. So many times disillusionment comes. So many times you want to give up the very pursuit itself. In fact, so many drops away from the pursuit because of this after a while. Are you able to follow? Why the disillusionment comes? What is the disillusionment? Sir, I'm putting in so much of effort. At least I have to see some result to know. Effort okay, sir. Enlightenment la vana. I'm not asking for enlightenment and all, sir. At least some change I should see in me. But nothing I am seeing. Are you able to follow? Krishna comes and says, it is this bhakti that neutralizes that doubt. It is bhakti that neutralizes the doubt and keeps you in the path. How bhakti neutralizes that doubt, which is the very big doubt, and it takes 6 chapters to remove that doubt. It takes 6 chapters to remove that doubt. What is the doubt? The doubt is this. I am making an effort, but I don't see any. I am making an effort, but I don't notice any change. How do I continue? How do I continue? Krishna says the solution lies in. Solution doesn't lie in more effort. Solution doesn't lie in more effort. Because you can go on saying, put in more effort, put in more effort, put in more effort. After a period of time, you know that you can put effort according to your capacity only. How can you make an effort above your capacity? But then the mind comes up with its own doubts. You want to give up the very pursuit itself. And any number of people we have seen in the last 30 years. So many come, so many go. They don't. Amongst those who are stuck, they have reconciled that nothing is going to happen. So many people come with the hope of getting something and they leave. The rest who are stuck have reconciled. What? Venkat. Let us keep doing jnana vijnanam, knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom is in recognizing the unknowable factor. That is wisdom. Jnanam makes everything known. Vijnanam says there are so many things that can never be known. There are so many things that can never be known. What is it that can never be known? Oxygen is created, the body is perfectly created, and the tree is also created. With your effort, what did you do? All the blessings are given to you. So with your effort, what did you do? What does anybody do? With all the blessings, what does anybody do? They go on increasing krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya, bhaya, dvesha. So all your effort has done in what? All your effort has resulted in what? All your effort has resulted in increase of this. If at all you have to claim that I have created something, what can you claim that you have created? Krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya, bhaya, dvesha. That these have covered it. These have covered it. They have covered it. That which should make you more devotional has made you more ignorant, arrogant, greedy. Are you able to follow? Now he says the effort, when the effort part is exaggeratedly understood, as though everything is done by me only. Krishna gives one knock at the head and says, wake up. How can you ignore? How can you ignore me? Who is making sure that? Who is making sure that? See, what you should get, at what point of time you should get, and how much you should get, that is the divine grace. He ensures that you don't get anything less. He ensures that you don't get anything more. Your greed may make you believe that you are always having less. That's your greed. What is the divine grace? The divine grace is that whatsoever is needed is provided. Unasked for. Unasked for. Thank God they didn't ask you and create. Yeah, if you are asked and then creation happens, what would have happened? If you are asked and then creation happened, what would have happened? Rakshasas only would have. Yeah. Everybody will become one Rakshasa fighting with one another. Are you able to follow? So, all that the effort does is what? To make a person more. All that the effort does is to make a person more arrogant, egoistic. Knowledge makes a person arrogant, egoistic. Vijnanam makes it. That's why he uses the word Vijnanam. Otherwise, there is no need to use the word Vijnana. Are you able to follow? Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Where he is going to talk about the grace, and straight away Krishna starts. Arjuna didn't ask any question. Some of the chapters Arjuna asks a question. Some of the chapters he himself starts. Here is a chapter where Krishna starts by himself, by saying, I will talk about God, the two aspects of God. Beautiful set of discussions from 7 to. But anyways, for every chapter, every verse, you keep saying you keep saying the same thing. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. Now, what to do? Each and every verse is so beautiful. Sutre Manigana Iva is coming in this chapter. No? The unseen string that connects the beads together. You see the beads, that is knowledge. Seeing the string is Vijnana. That is the grace. The string is not seen. You see the beads, that is knowledge. Vijnanam is needed to see the string. And I am that string, he says. And from now on, he keeps saying, he will use his Me, I, so much from now on. And when you go to 10th chapter and 11th chapter, he takes it to the height. Here he gives the two aspects, Saguna and Nirguna. In 8 and 9, he will talk about Nirguna a lot. 10 and 11, Saguna a lot. That's the distinction. Again, I repeat. I will forget when we go into the never. If I start reading the verses, I will forget. The assumption is you are not supposed to. You are not supposed to forget. I can only forget. You are not supposed to forget. So what is it? Here he gives the intro to the entire next 6 chapters. And then 8 and 9, he talks about the Nirguna, formless. And then in 10 and 11, he talks about the form. Arjuna confused in chapter 12. Tell me clearly, how should I worship you? With form or without form? Instead of answering that question, he's answering those questions. Not that he doesn't answer. He answered that question. So from where does the doubt come to Arjuna that with form or without form? Because 8 and 9, he's talking about without form. 9 and 10, 10 and 11, he talks about with form. So chapter 12. How do I worship you, Krishna? Form or formless? The formless is more difficult than the form. So why can't I just restrict it to form? He says, if you restrict yourself to a form, don't make a mistake. If you restrict yourself to a form, don't make a mistake. What is the mistake? The mistake of worshipping the form as bhakti. Don't mistake. Develop the 35 qualities. If you want to be a worshipper of form, develop the 35 qualities. There we decide Bhakti Yoga is not for us. Just as we decided Karma Yoga is not for us. Okay. Karma Yoga Vana. Like Abhada Bhakti Yoga. We thought it is very Abhada. Now Bhakti Yoga means we already know Bhakti is the easiest path, and in this age of Kali, everything is so Bhakti. We do just chanting the form, worshipping the form, do one Abhisheka to the form and Naivedya to the form. Everything is all right. Thank God. As we are going to conclude that, in chapter 12, he says, Arjuna, worship the formless. But if you want to stick to a form, develop the 35 qualities. And if you look at those 35 qualities, you will say, okay, sir, 13th chapter we'll go for. That is more easier than. This is the sequence, the beautiful sequence of chapter 7 to chapter 12. With this, we move on to the chapter now. Wherever possible, I try to remind the connection between the previous 6 and the 6. It's not contradictory. It is not contradictory. Don't understand that he is contradicting what he has said. It is not contradictory. He is adding something. First he said effort, and then he says grace, and then he is going to add something to, in the 13th chapter, if we do that, if all of us survive till we come to the 13th chapter, in the 13th chapter, we will give another formula. What is another formula? Success equals effort plus grace plus something. So he is not contradicting, he is adding, making it more refined, making it more subtler. Are you able to follow? So don't misunderstand that he is contradicting. Since Arjuna couldn't follow, he thought Krishna is contradicting. He's not contradicting. He's only adding it. Just as first you read addition, and then multiplication will be added, and then algebraic equations will be added. Like that, he goes on adding, but it is not contradictory. Are you able to follow? Don't misunderstand it that he is contradicting. He is only adding, and he is only adding another factor. He adds another factor. What is the factor that he is adding from chapter 7 to 12? Bhakti Yoga, grace, God. Bhakti Yoga, grace, and all means one and the same. With this, we will start reading the first verse. Chapter 7, verse number 1.
Shri Bhagavanuvāca Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayaha Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yathajñāsyasi tashrinu. Shri Bhagavanuvāca Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayaha Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yathajñāsyasi tashrinu.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Blessed Lord said, O Partha, with the mind attached to me, practicing yoga, taking refuge in me, how you shall without doubt know me fully. That you do here. The Blessed Lord said, O Partha, with the mind attached to me, practicing yoga, taking refuge in me, how you shall without doubt know me fully. That you do here. Shrunu. Here. Here means listen, reflect, understand. Shrunu means listen, reflect, understand. What you should hear? How you shall without doubt know me fully. Samagram. The Sanskrit word is samagram, fully. That is why we said the two aspects. Fully means the two aspects. The form and the formless. The saguna and nirguna. Yogam yunjanna. Practicing yoga. Practicing yoga meaning effort. Practicing yoga means effort. With the mind attached to me, asakta manaha. Sakta means attached. Asaktaha means unattached. Asakta manaha means what? Completely attached. A means more. We have seen that already. Vidya, avidya. Shrama, ashrama. Similarly, saktaha, asaktaha. Asaktaha means firmly attached. Attachment here means firm. The mind is so fully intent on Brahman. Attachment means what? Focusing. All the time ananya chinta. What does attachment means? What is attachment? Ananya chinta. That's what attachment is. He says, anyway, mind by nature will get attached. Shift to the object of attachment at least. Make an effort to shift to the object of attachment. Mind gets attached. Now, what is the mind attached to? The mind is attached to the world. The mind is attached to the objects and beings. And this attachment to the objects and beings causes agony and misery. Why? Because we have seen the world is unpredictable, uncontrollable, unsustainable. We have seen that already. World means uncontrollable, unpredictable. First is unpredictable. You cannot, you think everything is, you have made proper plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. You have done. Everything is so well done. The timelines are perfect. And one thing goes wrong. You get so angry, so agitated, so confused. Yeah, not realizing what? The first thing, that it is unpredictable. All your planning happens against the backdrop of unpredictability. You got to plan against knowing fully well that there is an aspect of it which is unpredictable. So unpredictability is the nature of world. The best laid plans of men and mice gang oft ugly. In the Vedanta treatise, he quotes, the best laid plans of men and mice gang oft ugly. Gang oft ugly means in a split second, the whole thing changes, never to revert back to its original state. It is unpredictable. The fact that it is unpredictable means it is uncontrollable. Because anything predictable is controllable. If it is unpredictable means it is uncontrollable. The third is unsustainable. Even if you get something out of it, it is unsustainable. The mind that is attached to the unpredictable, uncontrollable, unsustainable, shift it to me. Shift it to me. Because I am. Why shift it to me? Me, not me. I'm not saying about me. Shift it to me. Krishna is saying, shift it to me. Why me? Why Krishna? Why Brahman? Because it is divine. It is a uninterrupted source of Ananda. It is your original nature. Shift it to me. What is the implication in this verse? When Krishna started this, the implication is he is talking to a person who is interested in Ishvara. That's the implication here. Arjuna didn't ask any question at all, but why did he start all of a sudden like this? What is the connection? The assumption that he is having is he is talking to a person who is interested in knowing what is God, what is Brahman, and what is this Brahman? I will talk to you fully about it. He's not saying what it is. He's saying, I will talk to you fully about it. Fully means the lower aspects, the higher aspect, the two aspects, everything will be told to you very, very clearly. Based on this, we say he's setting the platform for the entire next 6 chapters. Based on this, we say he's setting the platform for the rest of the 6 chapters. Taking refuge in me. Mat ashrayah. Mat ashrayah. Ashrayah means madashrayah. Ashrayah means refuge. Refugee, no. Refugee, when a person takes refuge, what drives that person to take refuge? What drives that person to take refuge? The faith, the conviction that I will be protected. Correct? That's what refuge is. Those who have taken refuge is called refugee. Yeah. And Krishna is saying, universally take refuge in me. All of you become refugees. Take support in me. We see refugees from one country to the other country, no? Not that kind of a refugee. Universally, he's saying, all of you all take refuge in me. What is refuge? Means a faith, a hope, a deep conviction that I will be protected. Why? Because it is in abundance. Okay. From a first world country, will you go to a third world country for refuge? A person from the third world country comes to the first world for refuge. Why? Because it is there in abundance and my presence is not going to create any. Correct? Are you able to follow? Imagine from America, Americans are taking refuge in India. How it will be? Indians are standing in the visa counter. No, I don't think any Americans is standing in the visa counter for India. All Indians stand in the visa counter for refuge. Yeah. Why we don't go and stand in the visa counter for Ethiopia? Oh, who wants to go there, sir? Why we don't Afghanistan? I'm not talking politics here. I'm only trying to explain. Refuge you take only where there is something higher. Something higher, and that higher means having something in abundance and you will be taken care. You don't go to a place where they themselves are battling. How can you take refuge? When they themselves are struggling, how can you take refuge? Are you able to follow? So he says, Mada Ashrayaha. Take refuge in me. Me signifies Brahman. Asamshayah, without doubt. Without doubt, you will know me fully if you hear me properly. If you hear me properly, you will know me without doubt. Samagram mam nyasyasi. That person will know. You shall know without doubt. What is the doubt? Doubt will go, he's saying. What is the doubt? What is the doubt? The doubt is this. I will leave the world a little bit and test waters first. If God is taking care, then I will leave everything and come. That is the doubt. Testing waters. Are you able to follow? What is the doubt? He's saying all your doubts will go. What is the doubt? The doubt is leaving the known pleasures, though it is temporary. Even if it is temporary, there is a known pleasure. There is a known satisfaction. There is a known strength. If I have to leave all these known things and come, first, sample piece. Okay. You go to Krishna Sweets, they will give you a sample sweet first, isn't it? Tasting that, you know whether to buy it or not. That is the doubt. So the sample clarifies your doubt. The doubt doesn't get clarified. In fact, the doubt gets more magnified. The doubts gets more and more magnified. Why? How does the doubt gets more and more magnified? Mind says, it worked today. What guarantee is there that it will work? What guarantee is there that it will work tomorrow? It worked for me, but what guarantee is there that it will work for my children, for my grandchildren? What guarantee is there for all that? And how much ever he gives guarantees, what doesn't get removed? The doubts doesn't get removed. Madashrayah. Ashrayah means hoping the grace, hoping that he will protect. That is ashraya. That's what refuge means. It's a beautiful word that we used to use. Nowadays, we don't use these words. Ashrayah. In Tamil language also, the same word is used, ashraya. Meaning, I have taken refuge. Yogam yunjan. The word yogam yunjan implies what? The person is willing to put in the appropriate effort. Yogam yunjan is an indication that the person is willing to put that appropriate effort. Madashrayah. As I am putting in the effort, I take refuge also. When I am putting in the effort, why take refuge? When I am taking refuge, what is the point of effort? But he says, both has to go together. Both has to go together. With the mind attached to me, practicing yoga, taking refuge in me, you will without doubt know me fully. That is, if you hear rightly. Saguna, Nirguna, he will say. Technically, he is going to call it as Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. The lower nature and the higher nature. Paraprakriti and the Aparaprakriti, the higher nature. He is going to use these two words. He will use the word Saguna, Nirguna, and he will use the word Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. Such a seeker will know me. Without doubt, I am guaranteeing you that you will know me fully. And we have seen any number of times. Knowing means merger. Knowing means becoming. That is Vijnana. Knowing means becoming. In order to become that, all that the effort is required is to pull the mind out of its entanglements. Effort is required to pull the mind out of the entanglements. Effort is required to change the direction of the mind. Effort is required to change the direction of the mind. Merging with me, don't worry. Becoming one with me, merging with me, you don't worry. Asamshayam, don't have doubts. Two types of doubts. One is, will my effort get me the fetched result? That is one kind of doubt. I am putting in effort. Will the result be commensurate with the effort? I have put in so much of effort, sir, and what I got is peanuts. So one kind of doubt is the effort and the result, will they be incommensurate with one another? That is one kind of doubt. The other kind of doubt is I am putting in the effort being limited by nature, how can limited effort give unlimited result? He's dealing with the second doubt. How can limited effort cannot give unlimited result? The person who understands what is effort, a person who understands all this will have this doubt. What is the doubt? Effort being limited, effort being done by the limited instruments. How can limited instrument with the limitation of the effort give unlimited result? How is it different from the greed? This is another doubt. So these doubts gets cleared. Asamshayam Mahabahu. Are you able to follow? Asamshayam. Oh Arjuna, don't have this doubt. Are you able to understand the two kinds of doubt? One kind of doubt is very ordinary. Another kind of doubt is the seeker. Because the seeker understands. What does he understood? The instrument is limited. The effort that he does is limited. With the limited instrument, with the limited effort, how can you guarantee infinite result? Anyway, that's what I was searching in the world all along. No. Anyway, that's what I was searching. That you called as greed. And how are you saying the same thing here? That doubt. He says that doubt gets cleared. If you listen to me properly from now on, that doubt gets cleared. As I said in the beginning, sir, but we don't have this doubt only, no problem. Clear. Assume this fellow is having a doubt and he is clearing the doubt. Clear. We'll just witness this conversation at least. Somebody is having a doubt and a wise person is clearing the doubt, and at least we are fortunate enough to witness this conversation. Oh Arjuna, listen to what I have to teach you. When the subject matter becomes subtler and subtler, more attention is required, more concentration is required. Tatshrunu. Because it is getting subtler. Therefore, listen to what I have to teach you. You will then undoubtedly reach me, is the promise. You will then undoubtedly reach me is the promise that Krishna is giving to Arjuna. We'll move on to verse number 2.
Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyam yasheshatah yajñātvā neha bhūyoņyat jñātavyam avasishyate. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyam yasheshatah yajñātvā neha bhūyoņyat jñātavyam avasishyate.
I will declare to you in full this knowledge together with wisdom, which having known, nothing more here remains to be known. I will declare to you full this knowledge together with wisdom, which having known, nothing more here remains to be known. A further assurance to all humanity of the past, the present, the future. The assurance to the humanity in general, not only to Arjuna, to the humanity in general, in the past, the present, in the future. Positive. I will declare to you in full this knowledge. I will declare. Because of Krishna saying this, Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. We pray. We pray to Krishna, calling him as Jagat Guru. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Why? Because he is saying it directly, no? I will declare to you in full this knowledge, together with wisdom. Not only I will give you knowledge, Arjuna, while I am giving you knowledge, the knowledge is given to you in such a way that it will turn into wisdom. For I am that wonderful teacher. I am not like a newsreader. Yeah. I am not like a newsreader. As I give knowledge, I impart knowledge in such a way that knowledge turns into wisdom, which having known, nothing more here remains to be known. Mundaka Upanishad says this, that by knowing this, everything is known. That by knowing this, everything is known. That's why it's called Anta, the end. Veda Anta. Why it is called Veda Anta? Anta means the end. What is the end? Knowing this, there is nothing else to be known. Yajñātva Anyat Jnātavyam Avasishyate. Yajñātva Anyat Jnātavyam Avasishyate. Na iha bhuyaha. Na iha bhuya means in this world. In this world, knowing this, there is nothing more to be known. And it gives such a strength to the seeker. To the seeker, it gives such a strength. And he is repeating the two words, Jnanam and Vijnanam. Now you know why this chapter is called Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Why it is called Jnana Vijnana Yoga? Because Krishna is saying, I will give you knowledge and I will give you wisdom. Knowledge he can give. How can he give wisdom? Knowledge is what you gain from external sources. Wisdom is that which you have, which you develop. But here he is saying, knowledge also I will give, wisdom also I will give. Very important discussion here because of these two words, Jnanam and Vijnanam. Jnanam means knowledge, Vijnanam means wisdom. Wisdom means when knowledge is effortlessly practiced. Where knowledge can be practiced effortlessly, that is called wisdom. People always have this difference. I understand, sir, but in practical life, in practical situation, they keep saying this, no, all the time. You also keep saying this, no, all the time. Knowledge I have understood. Practical life, how do I understand this how do I apply it practically? Theory is not separate from practice. Theory is not separate from practice. If you are not able to practice, you are not sound in theory. It's as simple as that. I have understood, sir, but I am not able to put it into practice. I have understood, sir, that fire will burn me, but I'm putting my finger in the fire every day. Practically, how do I stop? Cut your hand, sir. What do you do? If you are not able to practice, it means your theory is not correct. But what makes you to say, I have understood? What makes you to say, I have understood? Sheer memory of the words. Sheer memory of the words that you have gathered, the sheer memory that you have gathered, the sheer memory that you have accumulated makes you to say, I know. எனக்கு எல்லாம் புரிஞ்சிடுது சார், பிராக்டிஸ்ல தான் வரமாட்டேங்குது. I'm having problem only in application. So tell me, how do I apply it practically? It means you have not understood the difference. It means you have not understood what practice is effortless only when clarity is there in the theorem. That's why even relatively, anytime we get stuck, we say, let's go back to the basics and start afresh. Wherever you are stuck, they say, let's go back to the basics. What is going back to the basics means? The theorem, the theory. So, jnanam means theory. Vijnanam means practice. So, I will teach you jnanam. I will teach you vijnanam. But Krishna, the way you are teaching is so confusing then giving any, looks like clarity is not coming. It's only creating more and more confusion. The way I teach you, Arjuna, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, all included. I give you the information. I give you the methodology of analysis. I analyze it for you. I repeat it again and again and again. Not like a mantra saying Om, Om, Om. Not that way, Arjuna. Not only I give the information, which is Shravana, Manana. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. The three pillars of growth. We are going to see that. Because he has used these two words, jnanam and vijnanam, we have a chance to elaborate these. Otherwise, where do you get a chance to elaborate this? So, what is jnanam and what is vijnanam? Jnanam means theoretical knowledge. Vijnanam is practical wisdom. What is theoretical knowledge? Ingredients of what all goes into the making of a sambar. I can read a book, I can read a cookbook, and I have the sound theoretical knowledge. What is the theoretical knowledge? $70 milliliter of tamarind water, 8 grams of turmeric powder, 1 gram of salt. With all this theoretical knowledge, I go into the kitchen. First thing I have to buy is a measuring stick now, isn't it? A weighing scale I have to buy. Because it is 70 ml, 8 grams, 2 grams, half a milligram of salt. By mistake, you put 8 milligram of salt, what will happen? So, all this is theoretical knowledge. With all this theoretical knowledge, keeping the instruments ready, keeping the weighing scale ready, I make a sambar. I will not give any one of you that sambar. As it is, the class is torture. After the class, my food also not double torture. Theoretical knowledge and practical wisdom. So you go over it again and again and again. You go over it again and again and again. What happens? The theoretical knowledge gets converted into practical wisdom. So when you are going over it again and again and again, what is implied when you go over it again and again and again? What is implied? Errors will happen. Mistake will happen. Why? Because the mind is wandering, no? I'm standing, wait for 20 minutes to boil. I can't leave the stove. I'm standing in front of the stove, looking at it boiling. Second minute, third minute, fifth minute, something else happens. Are you able to follow? When you are practicing it, what is implied in practice? Errors will happen. If you are egoistic, if you have kartrutva, if you are egoistic, the error will depress you. The mistakes that you make will make you get depressed, will make you get disillusioned if you have kartrutva. How do you get rid of the kartrutva? Continue the practice. One day, my sambar will get very close to my mom's sambar. That is the Shraddha. One day it will get closer. Continue. Meanwhile, who has to eat that? Meanwhile, who has to eat it? I only have to eat. Instead of serving it to everybody, I only keep drinking it. Jnanam and Vijnanam. And the way in which Vedanta gives knowledge is the Shravana, the Manana, the Nididhyasana. The Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, I will start in the next class. I'm not going to start now. But today, it's only the brief thing about Jnanam and Vijnanam. What is Jnanam? Theoretical knowledge. Vijnanam is when you put it into practice. When you put it into practice, what is implied? What is implied? Errors will come. You will slip. It is height of kartrutva, height of egoistic notion to believe that you will get it right at the straight away. I should get it. What kartrutva it is? What amount of egoistic notion it is? And when you don't get it, you will come back and say, நீங்க ஒழுங்கா எப்படி அப்ளை பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லி கொடுக்கல சார். It is not our fault, it is your fault because you didn't teach us properly how to apply it. Theory you are teaching, practical application you are not at all teaching. What practical application do we teach? 1 gram of salt. Now, how can you have so in the kitchen instead of vessels you should have weighing scales only. 10 different weighing scales you need to have, 10 different measuring glasses you need to have. By the time you have all this, you are so fatigued, you will not even want to start. So, theoretical knowledge means you have the information. And when you are putting it into practice, what will happen? Errors. Errors are bound to happen. But the kartrutva says, oh, it should happen. Straight away it should happen. Because I'm a great person, no? What a great person I am. I have worked, I have earned money, I have done this, I have done this, I have done that. You don't know about me, sir. I was an officer here, I was this, I was that. Oh, so how great I am. Such a great person should get it straight away. For Vijnanam, you need continuous practice. Continuous practice. And when practice means perfect practice. Practice itself means, are you able to follow? Practice itself means error. How can you have a perfect practice? Perfect practice session, sir. Match first ball, clean bowled. Clear. Next I am hitting 6 after 6 after 6. First ball bowled. So all my test record, 0 down. How is it possible? Are you able to follow? How does it work like that? Therefore, I will declare to you in full. In full, I will not keep anything hidden and all. I will teach you fully, completely I will teach you. Together with wisdom. And Arjuna, what is the value of my teaching? You know how valuable my teaching is? You know the worthiness of my teaching? What is the worthiness of my teaching? What is the value of my teaching? Knowing which, nothing more here remains to be known. What an assurance. Yeah, knowing this, you don't need anything more to be known, Arjuna. Such an assurance. And the seeker is so sure. So we continue with the same verse. We continue with the same description of Jnanam and Vijnanam. And also we have a chance to revisit the basics of Shravana, Manana and Nidhyasa. We'll do all this we'll continue with verse number 2. But remember this. Effort, practice implies slipping. Effort, practice implies slipping, mistakes. Kartrutva says, I should get it straight away. It's like first time in her life, my daughter made one sambar 3 months back. And the first question she asked me is it like grandmother's? I also said, color paaka onna irukudhu, I said. The color is the same, that's all. How can it be the same? When the child does it, it is understandable. But when an adult believes that it is possible, what do you do? This is called Kartrutva. Are you able to follow? Knowledge and Jnanam and Vijnanam. With this, the verse we conclude. Venkat.
Yes. Anshu has it.
Yeah. நீங்க break எடுத்துன்னு வாங்க. அடுத்த round வேற இருக்கு. அடுத்த round of boxing we have. Yes, Anshu. Yes.
So, reference to the first verse, when we say we should take refuge. So if we actually feel that we are suffering, then we have that need to take the refuge. But most of the time, we don't feel that we are suffering.
Correct. Exactly correct.
So how do we feel the need to take the refuge?
The need to, correct, good question. The need to take the refuge comes when you know that you are a victim of these 5. When you know that you are a victim of Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya, and you are not at ease with yourself. You are not at peace with yourself. You are not at ease with yourself. You are not at peace with yourself. Irrespective of where you are, what you are, you want a change. Are you able to follow? Irrespective of where you are, irrespective of what you have, what you don't have, you want a betterment. you want a change. That very idea of betterment itself is because of suffering. They will follow? The idea of betterment itself is, see, if I am thoroughly contented with where I am, what I am, I will never make an effort to change, isn't it? The very fact that I want to change, I can call it as change, or I can call it as becoming better. Any word I can use. But the truth is what? I am unhappy as I am. I am unacceptable as I am unhappy. As I am unacceptable. To whom? To one's own self. So whenever this thought arises, you catch hold of that and reflect on that. Then the need for refuge comes. Are you able to follow? But sir, Vedanta says you should be contented, no? Pig's contentment it is called. Even the pig is contented in the gutters. Doesn't make it. Are you able to follow? So there is a constant thing in me wanting to change. Is it okay, Anshu? Or did I answer you?
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you.
Venkatachan.
So first of all, thank you so much for the wonderful classes, the summary of the chapters, first 6 chapters, then the introduction to this thing. I think wonderful classes. My observation from these classes is, Manana, that when we talked about Upanishads, Kaivalya Upanishad, or even Atma Bodha as an introduction, we talked about Brahman as if he were deluded, and in the embodied in this body and mind complex, and in what appears to be a deluded Brahman, knowledge is imparted or the information is given. Whereas in Bhagavad Gita, we talk about the ego directly.
Yes.
For 6 chapters also we address the ego. Now also we address the ego. So it appears certainly the ego is the single most important ignorance. The entire ignorance is all about the ego. And so we are addressing the most important aspect of it.
Right.
If I were to take, or as a theoretical, this is a theoretical question, approach eliminating my ego in its entirety, I don't know whether that would be possible. As long as I live in this world, I may have some ego, but if I can at least subdue my ego to the minimum level that can sustain me in this world, that itself getting closer or realization. Is my understanding right about this?
Yeah. Now, if you are asking to if I minimize my ego to that extent,
My
I will
realization.
become a better person.
Yes.
To that extent, I would become a better person. Definitely, yes. Because of the very nature of ego, unless it is completely eradicated, it is always sitting on a time bomb.
Okay.
It's always sitting on a time bomb because it knows how to gain a backdoor entry, making you unawares. It will distract you somewhere, and as you are focused there, it will gain a backdoor entry.
Okay.
That's what the ego does. It will distract you. And when it distracts you, your distraction will look so meaningful to you. Instead of calling it as distraction, you will call it as, I am so focused on one thing. I am so intent on achieving something. All this is nothing but the play of the ego to distract you. And when you are so much focused there, it gains a
entry.
It gains a backdoor entry. Therefore, we keep eliminating the ego with the understanding that it got to be eliminated from the root.
Okay.
And to eliminate the thing from the root is nothing but recognizing that this ego itself is born out of imagination.
Imagination.
This ego itself is born of, it's not substantial entity. It is an entity born of imagination.
Imagination.
Since it is an entity born of imagination, we need to have that much of wisdom to stop the imagination. Because ego, ego, all are synonymous. All does only one thing. What? Imagines.
Imagine.
Hope is a part of imagination. Hope, expectations, all are nothing but part of imagination only. That's why Vedanta clips it says, get to the reality, clip the imagination, get to the reality, clip the imagination. So every time you are clipping your imagination, you are clipping the ego. Or ego born out of imagination. So a introductory textbook like Atma Bodha will try to explain how ignorance is born of imagination. Textbook like Bhagavad Gita, which is more sadhana oriented, sadhana oriented, he will take the discussion to a totally different level. Upanishad is talking to a person who has done all the sadhanas and come to the last point. So Upanishads don't talk about sadhanas a lot. Textbook like Atma Bodha don't talk about sadhana a lot because they are more interested in giving the 2 in the mind, 2 in the fingers kind of.
Yeah.
2 in the mind, 2 in the fingers kind of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita is more popular because it does both. It gives that and it gives the sadhana also. Is it okay, Venkatachalam?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Bhaskar, where are
you? Sir. No more questions, sir.
No more questions. Okay. With this, we conclude for today and we continue with verse number 2 onwards in the next session.